in and listening in today. Welcome, Andrew. Thanks for joining us today, and welcome to our very special guest, Erin Wedge.
Thank you, Kylie, and thank you, Andrew. It's so lovely to be here.
It sure is. Just a bit of background for people that are new. Andrew, you're a qualified business coach. I am a qualified organisational and leadership coach, and both of us have formal qualifications in organisational psychology. We actually did our psych degree together back when you were here in Australia. You're now in the UK, so it's nice and early in the morning for you. Yeah. And the reason we started this Leadership Lounge sessions was because we realised that so many leaders are put into a leadership position because they're good technicians, good practitioners, great at what they do. So therefore they're put into a leadership role, but actually no one's ever taught them how to lead. And leadership is a skill, it's a competency, and it's actually a learned skill as well. So we both call this accidental leadership, and it's really interesting. And I actually was speaking to someone the other day in an Institute of Management and Leadership company here, and they call it accidental leadership as well. So they realise how many people are put into these roles. And, you know, what we often find is leaders are transitioning or wanting to transition from that real operational, technical space into that more strategic leadership space. And that's where we play. That's what we do every single day, day in, day out. And we thought, wouldn't it be good to have a platform where we could just share some insights around leadership, what we're seeing, what are some of the trends, what are some of the challenges, and you said, I would love to do this with you, Kylie.
I did indeed, yeah.
I might have twisted your arm a bit. And each month we have a special guest, and tonight we've got Erin Wedge. And Erin has over 25 years experience in education. Erin has held various leadership roles within the Catholic school, and you're currently serving as the principal of Mary MacKillop College in Nundah, which is in Brisbane North. And every time, Erin, I hear you speak, you just speak my language. You're so passionate. You're so empowering when it comes to leadership. And I thought, wouldn't it be great to have you on our lounge to share what we believe, what I believe, and I know Andrew does as well, is so important for us to help our future female leaders through. So I wanted you to be able to share your insights. So welcome, Erin. Have I forgotten anything about you that is just amazing?
I don't think so, Kylie. No, I'm looking forward to having a chat.
Yeah, I know. Well, you love leadership, and every time you get up on the stage, you're talking about how do we empower female leaders? How do we empower the future generation? And I wanted to just ask you a question. And I know Andrew's going to have lots of questions, and I know we're going to have lots of questions that come through our chat bar as well. But with everything you know, and with all of the females that you've led over your career, what do you think are the qualities and skills that we know female leaders will need in the future?
Yeah, Kylie, an interesting question. I think it's actually qualities that everyone needs for the future. We are dealing in a very different time, aren't we? You know, we're dealing in complex times that are challenging, that we haven't come across before. And so I suppose some of the qualities that, you know, we sort of need just, you know, resilience, you know, vulnerability, you know, all of those sort of relationships, accompaniment. But I suppose when we're talking about women in leaders and wanting to get our girls to be the leaders of our future, we're actually wanting them to hone into some of those soft skills that are so important for our complex times. So one of the things that I talk to my staff about and my immediate team are about the C's. We sort of talk about, or the K, we talk about leading with kindness. We talk about leading with clarity. We talk about leading with calm, and we talk about leading with community in mind. So, you know, those are the sort of the four C's, which kindness isn't, but, you know, the four sort of things.
Sounds like it.
try and sort of come back to, because as you said in your opening there, Kylie, you know, you get into leadership because you love that strategic, like, you know, sometimes it's accidental, but you also get into leadership because you've got that strategic vision and you sort of know where things can go, like what's the hope, what's the ability.
Yeah.
Is you've got compliance and you've got, you know, complaints and you've got, you know, the running of the operational school and all of these, or the day-to-day that you need to tick off. And then it's sort of, okay, where do we actually go with those things? So, you know, which is why, you know, we've had some great conversations about that. How do we actually sort of slow the things down so that we can actually get our skills strong enough? Because, you know, we're being asked to do some things that leaders in previous times haven't been asked to do. So we've got to do things differently.
We do have to do things differently. And I think one of the things, there's so much I can take from that, but I think one of the things we have to remember as well in leadership now is we are leading so many different generations. And we know that by the year 2030 that we're going to have more millennials in the workforce than we've ever had before. Plus, we've got all of the other generations. So we have to be able to think about what do our people need. It's not just about how do we lead from the past, where it was very much strategic. This is the direction. This is where we're going. This is what we're going to do. It's different. People need things different from us as leaders. And I know, Andrew, you're going to have something to say about this, but I will say, and I know we talked about this, Erin, is Andrew and I both actually authored a book on leading from the heart just recently, became an absolute #1 bestseller around the world, right? Instantly. And my part was about leading with kindness. And I remember thinking, do leaders really want to lead with kindness? And when I spoke to you, you went, yes, they absolutely do. Well, when that book was published, it just reinforced that actually our people are wanting something different from us. And they're wanting kind leaders, and they're wanting calm in this crazy world that we've got as well.
Yeah. Hey, Erin, what has shaped the way you think about leadership?
Yeah, lots of things. So, Kylie, you said in your introduction, I've been 25 years in leadership and 30 years in education. And things that have influenced me is podcasts, like at the moment, you know, listening to podcasts, reading. As leaders, we have to continually be working on ourselves as leaders. So you can't just say, oh, well, I've got the job now, you know, I can, you know, go off and do it. You actually have to keep working on yourself. What does it mean for me to be a leader? What does it mean for me to lead at this particular time, at this particular place, in these particular circumstances? And what's going on that's influencing these sorts of things, so that actually influences my leadership. And I was just thinking too, before, Kylie, you sort of mentioned, you're right, we're going to have a whole heap of different people with us, you know, the cross-generational people who are in our teams. But it's also about having that emotional intelligence that is about sort of saying, what does this person need from me at a particular time? So once upon a time, we would just be, well, this is how I lead and this is how I'm going to do it. And, you know, don't ever anyone else worry, but this is how I do it. And this is what's going to, and you've actually got to fall in line with me and what I do as a leader. Now, on your team, you're sort of thinking, well, what does this person need from me at the moment? And what does this person need? And as part of being a leader is me learning what that person needs to unlock their potential, to unlock what do I need to help them to be the best that they can do? Because this person here, well, they actually need something completely different from me, and I need their potential so that they can be the best person. But hang on a minute, now I go back to the person, maybe this has happened, or the dog's died, or the, kids are sick. What do they need from today? So leadership today is different because it's very nuanced, and it's very, trying to craft out the way you lead people in a way that helps
meet
your
their
team.
needs.
Yeah, because their needs in a sense have to be met so that they can be the best that they can be. So those different things influence me. Books, I read lots of books at the moment. I've got the culture code that we're reading as a team. So, as a team, we will read books together, and then we will break things down and say, well, okay, how's that going to influence us in our little teams? Margaret Wheatley's Who Do We Choose to Be is one that's really influencing me at the moment, because it talks about the fact that we've got to do things differently because we're leading in challenging and complex times. And then, of course, there's always people as well that have influenced me in my past. So, female writers, but then also females that I have worked with, that you sort of still look up to and you think, oh, gosh, I want to be like them when I grow up, those sorts of things, and how we actually bring about, our leadership skills, kindness and clarity.
Yeah.
I just had a self-leadership glitch right there, Erin. I didn't realise my camera was off. So, hey, Erin, who has you? I started out as a chalky, right? That going back years and years and years and years ago, and I was a teacher in the days when a man could be in a primary school in a remote part of the world.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was a one school, one teacher, 16 kids in a remote part of Victoria, right down there, and the people who were shaping and influencing me were we had if you like a regional headmaster who used to come around to all the different schools, and she was in charge of probably about 6 schools, right? So I don't know how she spent a day at each if there was 6 schools, but anyway, she managed to get around to all 6 schools. But the people who shaped me were, like you, the books I read, and I remember reading Marva Collins' book, and I don't know if you've ever heard of Marva Collins in the United States, but I remember one morning getting up. It was a Sunday morning, and I never got up early, and Marva Collins was on TV being interviewed about how she was leading her school, right?
Yeah.
And in those days, if you wanted to get a book from the States, it took about 16 to 20 weeks for the book to arrive, right? So, but when I got it, I destroyed this book because I read it, right? But I was wondering who particularly has really shaped the way you lead. Who's I never met Marva Collins, but she was a tremendous mentor through what I could see on TV, but particularly her books. But who shaped you?
So I started out very similar to you, Andrew. I was a primary school teacher, and always wanted to be. And perhaps, those first years of teaching are so formative, aren't they? And my very first principal was Leon Capra, and he always talked about team and the need for us to work as a team. And he used lots of analogies with sporting teams. And there's also the support that a team actually brings you as well, isn't it? That you're this lone island. So for me, of a morning when I walk in each morning, I'm not, carrying the heaviness of leadership by myself because I work as a team. Yeah. So a particular person in those first sort of 4 or 5 years while I was a primary school teacher, watching how teams actually operate. And it's sort of funny how the universe walked with you. Leon then hired me again in an assistant principal role. And now he is actually one of my mentors. So he has known me for 30 years, in this game of education. And so, that's just a real gift, isn't it? Because, he is someone that has absolutely influenced the way that I work as a team and what I talk about in our Catholic anthropology. I'm at a Catholic all-girls school, so our belief that we are in community, and that's how we, work together. That's what Catholicism is about.
Well, that's a huge influence. That's a huge influence.
Yeah. I think, there's a couple of really key points, and I just want to bring them out, especially for the audience. That leadership is a journey. It's not a destination. So as you said before, it's, you might have the title, but we've got to keep on growing. Leadership has evolved, hasn't it? We're no longer in this command and control. Our people are needing different stuff from us. The other thing is that you were saying, that leadership, our people need so much from us, that there are so many different. I was reading some research a couple of weeks ago that's showing that there is approximately 25 core competencies you need in order to be a leader of yourself, a leader of teams, and a leader in the future. Now, how does someone learn that if they actually, which is to your third point, don't have a coach, don't have a mentor, don't have someone that is inspiring them, someone who is developing them, growing them, whether it be within their own industry, whether it be outside of their own industry? You've got to have those, those 5 people around you or 3 people around you that are helping you to become better for the people. And I think the last thing around that is that leadership isn't a sole sport. It is, we're in this together. It is stronger. We're stronger together as a team. And I think many leaders feel like they have to do leadership alone. So it's really nice to hear. And I know Andrew and I do a lot of group coaching with executive teams. It's really important that that teams realise that it is together we are stronger. So I love that you said that, because it's not all on your shoulders.
No.
My first boss, Erin, was a woman called Pat Castles, and Pat was like the model of leadership you described, Kylie, of divide and conquer, and it was top down. And I remember one day, and I really liked her. I actually really liked her, and we got on incredibly well, right? A lot of people didn't, and she had this very isolated approach to leadership, and people were, very frightened and scared of her. But for some reason, we really gelled, right? Because I didn't take her that seriously. I thought that's got to be a front. So I used to go and have a coffee with her, and she one day said to me, best bit of mentoring, she said, "Don't lead like me." She said, but it was, if I look at it, it was the schools I went into was mainly men with a few women in it. But it was almost like she had to be like that.
To
maintain that. But she said, "Don't be like me." She said, it's really tough, you sort of to do that, sustain it. Yeah.
I think too, as we were just saying, you have to work on yourself as a leader, but you have to put into your time with your team, how do we operate as a team? So when, often we'll get together for your meetings, your team meetings, and you just go straight into strategy or straight into operational, or what do we do, or how are we meeting budgets, how are we meeting our
real tactical.
But you actually have to put time into discussions as a team. How do we function as a team? How are we putting energy, not into me, but how do we put energy into the team, and which is my number one team? Because we often belong in organizations with other teams. So like, I'm in this team, and then, in a school setting, well, then I'm as a head of faculty, and then I'm in another team. So which is my number one team? And then I think that people and teams start to have that little bit of because it's sort of like, well, what team do I belong to, and why aren't you putting energy into it? And it doesn't come just by osmosis. You don't just form a team like, you actually have to sit down and have a chat about it. How do we actually, well, what are we going to do here? What do you need to be part of this team? What does the team need to do to help you get what you need at the moment because you've got this, KPI that's sort of looming that needs to sort of happen. So it's having those conversations around team.
Erin, how many on your team?
My immediate team with CLT, there's 5, and then that goes to middle leaders, which is about 20 something, and then there's 81 on staff. So I belong to lots.
We call that ways of working, and it's really important. A lot of the time I'll often go into an executive leadership team or a senior leadership team, and I'll go, right, who's team A and who's team B? And they'll go, team A is the team under me. Team B is my senior leadership team. And I'm like, wrong answer. Team A is your senior leadership team. If we get that functioning right, if we get that performing, operating, then team B just hears and sees all of these things around them. So that real foundations, those ways of working are absolutely critical. And I often find that so many teams don't have it because they don't actually understand some of the frameworks that they're needed. So I love that you talk about it with team one, team 2, team A, team B. It doesn't matter. People have got to understand that as peers, we're team A.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes you've actually got to be strategic to be able to say, well, even though team A is modeling the way and, doing all of, showing ways of team B, all right, how are we actually going to do this? What are we going to do? So you've actually got to be strategic about it, I think. And our time to have those discussions.
Erin, at the start of this, you talked about strategic vision, right? So you're the leader, right? And I was a chair for a children's charity, and the vision was rubbish. When I came on board, it was like nobody really knew what we were up to, right? How did you shape your vision, and how do you get that across? You've got buy-in from your team on that?
Yes, okay. Probably one of the things with leadership for me, which my team knows, is that we just take one step at a time. And it's not a race. It's it's not a sprint. It's a marathon, so we don't need to hurry up and change everything this year. So I suppose one of the things is having a look at, well, what is it that the school actually, for us, it's a school. So what is it that is needed? What are the parents calling for? What's society calling for? What are we seeing are the needs of our girls? And then being able to sort of get a team around me, so a little, investigative team or a working party, and then being able to sort of say, well, all right, well, let's go. We've done some research. This place looks really good. Let's go and, have a little bit of a look at what other people are doing, come back, have a discussion about it, talk a little bit about it, and then you get buy-in by not just coming and being, as you said before, that authoritative figure. This is what we're doing. You're having discussions of that trust and inspire the whole time. And that's
very collaborative, what you're doing.
Very collaborative, and making sure that, like Simon Sinek talks about the why, and talk a lot. We're on a strategic vision at the moment that we call Bold Hope, and you keep talking about it, or whenever you bring in change, you keep talking about it. And I think you keep talking about it until someone says, enough already. We can move on. Next step, that's great. Because people love to, they don't want to be blindsided, we change, or we have to do this. Where did this come from? So it's having those conversations and having, all right, now the middle leaders, or, these people are going to talk about it. Now we're going to bring these people and we'll have a little bit of a chat about it. And then what bubbles up then is bubbles up to the surface of, well, what is it that we actually need to be working on, you know, from all of those collaboratives? What is it that we need to be discussing, and what is it for us do we need to be instilling in our girls so that they are the leaders of the future?
Yeah. You know, one of the things, Erin, and you kind of guided me to that, because one of the things that I'm often thinking about, I work with a lot of female executives and males as well, but a lot of females. And one of the things that I often see is imposter syndrome. And, you know, I was reading the Gallup survey results, and it's 84% of leaders have imposter syndrome. And, you know, so therefore it's really common. It's people have it all the time. But I wonder, how do you, as a leader of young future female leaders, how do you instill that confidence and that self-belief in them? What are some of the strategies you use? Because we want them to walk out of your schools into the workforce or into the universities with this absolute confidence and self-belief that they deserve where they're going.
I suppose one of the main ones I use, Kylie, which you know, you may have heard around your dinner table, is having a cheer squad around you. So I talk to the girls about making sure that you've got people around you that are cheering you on, so that, again, you're not feeling like you're the only person. So it might not be imposter syndrome, you know, for me, but it's, you sometimes sort of think, oh, you know, am I right? Have I made that right decision there? But you've got other people around you that you're able to sort of say, oh, I don't think I got that right there. Could you just, you know, those people that are with you on your leadership journey, whether it's a mentor outside that you can call, or whether it's the people in your team, it's having that cheer squad that is able to reflect back to you for your own self-reflection, I think. And I think that that's a great thing for when our girls leave our universities. Who are those people that are going to journey with them, you know, on that next step as they enter into adulthood and make adult decisions? So we talk a lot about getting those strategies already in place, you know, for the girls as they, you know, grow through the school.
Yeah, yeah. You know, there's that common saying is, you are the sum of the 5 people you hang around with. So, you know, are you hanging around the right people? Are you hanging around the people that you want to be better because of them? That you want to be something. So I love that you're talking about that, because I don't think it's just in schools, it's at universities, I think it's in business, I think it's in life. We've got to be around the right people.
And I think in today's leadership, it's you know, again, it's not that authoritative model, but it's how am I accompanying people, you know, through their journey. So it's not just about me, but
course,
you know,
yeah.
And I've got people accompanying me, but then how do I
cheer on others?
Yeah, and work with them and allow them to grow and provide opportunities, because it is going to get tough, and you do have to have that resilience, and you do have to have that grit, and you will get a few knocks on the chin, you know, as but it's having those guides around you, those people that are able to support you.
Yeah, how do we lift up others?
Absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, it sort of circles back to where we started the conversation, is that we actually can't be, you know, leaders, as Andrew was saying before, that authoritarian model. It just doesn't work anymore.
No, it doesn't.
You know, it just don't.
No. The science is on that. We know that.
Yeah. No, we just can't do that. But how do we then be the face of hope for those millennials that are coming through, you know, to be the next leaders of tomorrow?
You mentioned Bold Hope. Just give me a couple of minutes on Bold Hope.
Yeah, so our school is a school in the Josephite tradition. So Mary MacKillop is our saint, and she was absolutely bold and courageous, and you know, really was a woman before her time, especially in education. And so we want to be bold and courageous as we work with our young people to allow them to have skills for the future. And we don't know what that future is going to be, but Pope Francis said in one of his encyclicals that the future has a name, and the name is hope. And so we, in all our discussions, and this has been going on for, 2 and a bit years now, have sort of championed that we need to be courageous and we need to do things differently. We can't keep doing the same things, whether it's in the classroom or whether it's in the way we instruct our students or whether it's in the way that we lead. But we've also got to have that face of hope and be people who show optimism, because you can turn the news on and it's, devastating. And so how do we our people that this life, this world, this gift that they have every day to wake up to, how can they also be people that are positive and faith-filled and, and be that face of hope, be that face, all of those things. How can they be kind, all of that. And it's something, be people of grace. It's all of that comes forth in those, because the world is complex and challenging.
It sounds to me like there's a real balancing act between where you want to be and where you are right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's being a wood for the trees, and having faith that we will get there. Sometimes it seems like a mountain and you're like, oh my goodness, I wasn't expecting it. But how do we keep that optimism to be able to say, yeah, we can keep going, we can keep with this. And it's important work. It's leadership so important. That's what we're being called to do at the moment.
Erin, what's the opposite of bold hope?
What a great question. I don't know. Probably giving up, I suppose.
Yeah.
Just going along. Well,
yeah. Maybe it's in the too hard basket, and I can't do it.
Can't do it.
Negative frame of mind, and maybe always finding not having solutions, because we're
mindset
challenges. Yeah, we're always going to face challenges. So it's okay. Yeah, that's hurts, or that wasn't what I was expecting. Okay, let's now go forth and have a solution here.
With the charity team that I worked with, they were on about their vision was really murky, and I put an interim vision in there, which was it was actually a mission that I started with. The mission was every day you see us safeguarding vulnerable children between the ages of 4 and 12, right? And particularly over COVID, domestic violence in this country spiked. In fact, it spiked everywhere, right? And kids were for the first time, kids were right on the coalface of that, right? And so they were weren't really sure what the mission was. And I said, well, what's the opposite of safeguarding vulnerable children? And the vision eventually came out to be, and I wish I'd came up with it, but it was, we need to be educating people, 4 types of stakeholder, about the options that they've got available. And that became the vision. But it only lasted for probably about maybe a year and a half that we achieved that vision. And then we had to reinvent the next vision, if you know what I mean. But the mission didn't change. Every day we were still safeguarding kids. But it was like, to get that clarity that you talked about, I said, what's the opposite of this?
Yes.
What happens if we don't do our job properly? What happens if we don't get buy-in?
Yes. Yeah. And there's so many levels, isn't there, Andrew, of having a vision and having all of those things, because that to us is our big one that we're sort of going forth with at the moment. And then it sort of breaks down into, well, okay, how are we engaging the students in the 21st century learning space? How are we improving the way that they, results and how they engage and where their learning is. But then we've got a BCE vision and mission statement as well. And then, of course, things will change because we will get through this particular period and then we'll think, well, okay, now we've got different kids in. So what are their needs this time,
I was chatting with some educators the other day, and their mission was to be TikTok free by 2025 with their students.
Yeah, wow.
Right, because they said their feeling was it's sort of like such an insidious influence against everything they're trying to do with like bringing children forward and getting their leadership, because it gets you to buy into just scroll, just go along and
Yeah. I'm quite amazed, although I think I did see a school down in Melbourne where students were leading the charge about social media and phones. So I'm so hope-filled with our next generation of leaders because we've got such passion and intelligent young people coming forth that really want to make sure that their lives are the best that they can live. And, in particular, we know the damage that's being done, especially with mental health and the influence of social media and phones and those sorts of things. So, it's having that balance with everything, isn't it? Everything in balance is fine, but when it goes to an addictive state, you've actually got to start to say, hey, we need to do something here.
So I'm conscious of time, and your time, but I once asked Pat Castles, what is the secret to creating great students and as a teacher? And she said, as long as they can read, teach them to read, she said. And Marva Collins, that was her one thing. She said, teach kids to read, right? And to understand what they're reading, right? It sort of boiled down that. What's the absolute, if you said this is the stamp I want to put, what would it be? Is it that bold hope? What would be your personal stamp in this?
Yeah, for my students.
Yeah.
Is that asking, Andrew, for my students?
What's the stamp on your leadership?
Yeah, I think it's about having the belief in yourself. As Kylie was saying before, especially women, and the studies are showing this, it's that imposter syndrome. So for me, as a leader of an all-girls school, it's absolutely about you can do this.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that might be a bit tough, but good on you for giving it a go. So it's that having that belief in yourself that you can achieve, you can, go forth, or you can, be a part of, leadership in the future, or, if you want to start up, like you just look at the young people at the moment and what they're absolutely amazing. So it's having that belief in yourself that we can do that. And then I suppose as leaders too, it's having that belief in yourself. And
that belief ties into the why, very much so. The word can is a permissive verb. It's the opposite is I'm not going to give myself permission to do it. I can't do this, is I won't give myself permission to. So, and it's all about belief, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it. Andrew, you like to always ask our guests one final question.
Yeah. So this is the question, Erin. Are you ready for this? This is the roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
But we always find there's a guest will come on and I'll go, when we finish, I go, I wish I'd said this. I wish I'd said this, right? What's the one thing you think, we're about to end. What's the thing this is the thing I really want to.
Well, I suppose it relates more to female leaders and the girls in my school, is that girls can't be what they can't see.
Wow.
So, I suppose as an educator, of an all-girls school, and one of the things that we try and do is to just make sure that the girls have the opportunity to be able to see themselves of the future. So, you know, being able to see good female leaders, being able to see, you know, good female scientists or astronauts, or giving them those opportunities to be able to see who they can be. And it's a really exciting time, you know, to be in a girls' school and to be a young female, because I know when I was growing up, we didn't have, you know, females in Queensland, you know, premiers or police commissioners. And, you know, we've got our first Australian female astronaut at the moment. And some of our girls were able to go and have dinner with, meet her. So just being able to, and even as a female leader now, I'm still inspired by all of those people. So, you know, Christina Holgate and Katarina Carroll, Leonie Degenhall was a lady that was down, a female leader, a female principal that I just, you know, read her book. I met her once and have just sort of followed her as well. So just being able, it's a really exciting time, especially for girls and their leadership and the future.
Erin, I think it's a great name for a book, by the way. Girls Can't Be What Girls Can't See. A great name for a book. I think you've got to write it, Erin. I loved it. I lit up when you said that. Wow.
I know. And, you know, it just reminded me of this book I'm reading at the moment. It's called, it's from Jamie Lima, and it's Believe It. And she came out with this great saying. It says, you know your why, and then fly, girl, fly. And it just reminded me, you know, of, you know, that we've got to be, we're going to have surround ourselves with the right people, and, you know, make sure those people are a part of us, and know your why, your passion, and why it's so important you want to be it, and then fly, girl, fly. So it's an absolutely inspirational book. You know, she ended up selling a makeup range to L'Oreal for $1.6 billion, and she must have received over 300 no's. And she was just saying, you know your passion, know your why, and then fly, girl, fly. So, you know, I think that's what we need to remind, not just young females, but everyone to actually believe in themselves and instill that confidence. Thank you so much, Erin, for coming on and joining us today and sharing your leadership thoughts around females and the future generation. We really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, all good. Pleasure, Kylie. Thank you.
My pleasure. And Andrew, as always, thank you for asking some insightful questions, as always. And thank you to all our listeners as well for coming on today and joining us. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you in the next fortnight. Thanks.
Thanks, Kylie.